thanks especially for the gossip. It's the first time I heard it. It's a joy to be here. And for this so-called inaugural address, I have other chicken stories to tell. But really, I don't worry, this will not be heavy, it will not be head cracking. No? I just want to share with you a few thoughts regarding the theme chosen for our assembly, telling the story of Jesus in our Indian context and in a synodal way, telling stories. Human life is unimaginable without stories. I'm sure in my homily, the thing that people would remember is the box with the chicken. All the other things that I said about Holocaust and blood sacrifice, meal sacrifice, those things will not remain. But a story. And for us in Asia, a few years ago, we had the first Asian Mission Congress in Thailand, in Chiang Mai. And we already opted, among many possible ways of conceiving mission in Asia, we opted for this method called telling the story. Our cultures in Asia rest on epics, on stories and storytelling. And life has a structure, which is narrative. And if life has a narrative structure, why would mission not have a narrative structure as well? For mission is our life. Just to remind us of a few important points regarding telling stories. First, good stories are based on experience. While the story of someone who has heard about something could be worth listening to, the story of someone who was there during the event is more credible. There are good and bad stories, but there are credible stories. And we opt for credible stories. When we tell the story of Jesus, one question that we need to ask ourselves is this based on experience? How have I experienced Jesus? Am I talking about a Jesus who is an alien to me? And our listeners can detect that, whether we have had an experience of the one whose life and person we are narrating. The second point is stories reveal personal identity. When I try to explain or describe who I am, very often I don't give only information, where I was born, how old I am, my favorite food, etc. No. If I want to share who I am, I tell my life story. And my life story is not just about me. If I tell my story, I tell also the story of my time. It is always the person and his or her time contained in the story. No story of a person can be complete without the story of his or her time. My maternal grandfather was born in China. And because of the poverty that his mother experienced, he was sort of given to an uncle who did some trading in the Philippines. So my grandfather was a migrant and never saw his mother again. He worked hard. He sold cigarettes. to send his 9 children to school. So when I feel tired, when I am tempted to tell the Holy Father, please don't call me again, I remember my grandfather. And I have to say, I have a migrant DNA. When we tell our stories of Jesus, we will be revealing who we are too. We will be revealing our times and how Jesus has shaped our identity and our times. So, while Jesus is the focus of our storytelling, we as storytellers will be revealed also to our listeners. The third point is stories are dynamic and they are open to retelling. There are many, many different ways of telling the same story. In fact, they say, we do not tell the same story twice in the same manner. Wow. It also depends on your change in experience. When your context changes, you see a little more of a former experience and what it meant. And so the story of Jesus and our understanding of that story can be retold countless of times. And we bring the light of our present context and experiences in our new insights into the story of Jesus. Fourth is stories form communities. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, gossip starts. Where 2 or 3 gather, storytelling starts. And if you have the juiciest stories, you gather more people. Even on the cyber type of community, look, it is the controversial type of stories that gain more following. Stories form communities. Now, the story of Jesus is at the heart of a community of his brothers and sisters. We ask ourselves, how much of the story of Jesus binds our Christian community? Do we allow the story of Jesus, the power of that story, as we tell it over and over again, to bind us together? What is the foundation? What narrative provides the foundation of our community life? We hope it is the story of Jesus. That's why the Eucharist, where we remember that night of betrayal turned into a night of gift of self, needs to be recounted many times every day to form a community that can transform bitter nights of betrayal in our midst into a responsive gift of self. And finally, stories can be suppressed. Jesus himself, who was the great storyteller of God's kingdom, had to be silenced by those who could not stand his story of God's reign. But God the Father picked up the story. He was risen from the dead, and the new story begins for humanity. Many stories of the poor, of creation, of the powerless are being suppressed. And we hope they could get a voice and a retelling through the story of Jesus. And I can hear God the Father saying, yeah, please continue telling the story of my son. Where it started on Asian soil, it started there and spread all over the world. Tell the story of Jesus again. And now it's our turn. Tell it again and again in the context of India. Thank you very much for your patience.
Your Eminence, thank you very much.